Excuse me.
Yeah, okay, Sherry, you're
Okay.
muted, the sound is
Okay.
okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll up the volume here so we can hear you. Okay, so welcome, right? It's exciting to be back 2 weeks in a row, and we still have a couple of people here. Must have not been that bad last week. And Julie, welcome. I have a recording for you if you want from
Yes.
last week. You would?
I missed it.
Okay,
I had something else.
that's okay. You're here now, right? So the theme last week, one of the major themes and ideas we spoke about was gratitude, and how by not just having gratitude in general, but by ritualizing it, by making it part of our life, it can bring much greater happiness to us, being happy, recognizing all the blessings that we have in our life. So a little pop quiz. If you expressed more gratitude this last week and you want to share something that you were thankful for, or you just recognize and thought about, the floor is open. Should have warned everybody, right?
I said something to Larry in the car. I said, I noticed like people are putting on less lights, but like last year there were more lights. And he's like, well, I noticed the opposite. And he's like, well, what do we have to look forward to? And I said, well, you have to look forward to that you have your health, that we have a roof over our head,
Yeah,
that we're being fed,
100%.
that we're being taken care of. And I see it all day at work because people are coming in angry and very angry
Yeah.
and not making eye contact. And I say hi, they don't say hi. I'm like, hello.
Hello.
It's something that right.
They don't want to talk.
They must be the New Yorkers,
It's like people wanna look at each other
Yeah,
and
it's
talk.
interesting.
Even like when I'm walking down the aisle, like if I'm going on my break, everyone just is looking forward, not making eye contact, staying to themselves. And we've lost the meaning of being human. We need to make eye contact, we need to listen, we need to,
Yeah.
That's an
So that we
interesting-
care.
That's a very interesting.
and it's very sad.
observation, Because you are in a job where you are making eye contact with people on a daily basis, like all day that you're there.
And like
Yeah.
I said something to someone and I love people, I thrive on people. And so I spread a light and two people this week told me, I said, why are you smiling? And they said, because you're just so happy and joyful.
Wow.
And I was like, yes.
There you go. You did. Amazing. Do you think it has to do with technology and everyone being glued to their screens, right?
I think that
I think so. I think
people have lost their touch. I mean, I think people spend just an inordinate amount of
time on their
time.
phones and
Yeah, just with the face
escaping.
down.
Yeah.
Escaping.
Their
I-
face is down instead of up.
Uh,
They're on the phones, on the phone constantly.
I was doing homework earlier tonight with Rivka, and after a couple of minutes, I had this urge to take out my phone. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm doing homework with my daughter. I don't have any pressing emails that need to be answered this minute,
Out of habit.
Exactly. It's become part of our life. But I was studying Jewish history with someone earlier this week, and we were talking a little bit about the living conditions of the Jewish people in a certain shtetl, and talking about how many rooms people had in their home. And I was like, okay, I said we have to have more gratitude this week. I'm going to take a moment to think about how lucky we are to live in the suburbs, not in New York City, right? But it's not just the space that we have, we have an abundance of everything. Thank you, Hashem, for Amazon, for Instacart, or
5-year-old granddaughter was over and she wanted to know how come this big house only 2 people live here.
yeah.
She's
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
That's very perceptive.
Yeah, how come just you guys live here?
Yeah.
And then like another day I have a lot of my regular customers and I know them by name. I know about their families. Another guy, one in the beginning when I started working there, he just had a smile on his face. I'm like, what are you smiling at? He's like, you're one of the sweetest persons I know and I love coming in your line.
That's really nice. So they know who you are, and they
Yeah, and
Where's your store? Where do you?
I work at the Plum Grove one in downtown Palatine.
Okay.
What store?
The Jewel.
Oh, Jewel, okay.
But I used to work at the one on Arlington Heights and Rand, and I left there because I didn't care for a manager there and I wanted to try teaching.
The manager and all the employees.
a lot of the
Horrible
employees,
attitude.
yeah,
I
and
never got it.
this one always was picking on me and I got injured and I had like 4 things wrong with me and she was like very rude to me and I got sick. I took a gummy and she wouldn't let me go home and I'm like, watch me, I'm going. And she's like, well, you have to wait for someone to come in. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't. I'm gonna throw up on you if you'd like. And she wouldn't let me go. I said,
Wow.
watch me.
So I'll tell you a quick story, the Jewel that you mentioned here, Arlington Heights and Rand. Maybe a year and a half ago, I was in there and, you know, they have those coupons or everything's on your phone.
Yeah, just for
So,
you. And
yeah,
it's
just
not
for
a good
you.
app, I know.
And I always have a problem connecting to the internet when I'm in that store. So sometimes I actually have to go out of the store to like load the coupon in. So this time I didn't do that and I was buying something, I don't know what it was, and I went into the line. And sometimes when it doesn't register, whoever the cashier is, they just ring it up at
Right.
at what price it's supposed to be.
We're supposed to honor it.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a girl there, probably a high school girl.
And you couldn't bring
Couldn't get
the,
it to come.
So I said, you know, it's not working. And I said, but you know, this is the price and so forth and so on. And she said, well, you don't
need-
understand. I have to have it come up on your phone. I said, well, you don't understand. It's not coming up because I'm connecting your store to the internet. And she said, well, you don't understand, you little SHIT.
Wow.
She said to me, yeah.
Wow.
Did you go
High
to the
school kid.
manager and
The
tell her?
manager actually was right within earshot,
I can't believe she said it.
relieved her of her
right then,
position at that spot.
right then and
I
there,
don't know that they fired her on
right
the
then and
spot.
there.
He was
he-
right there.
He just said, I'll
Yeah, I'll
finish
take
this
over
up.
from here, yeah.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Oh. But did he honor the coupon?
I think they did.
Yeah.
I've never
I've
I've
Yeah.
never
Oh.
witnessed,
SH, yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
witnessed
I-
anybody at a.
And I wasn't
register.
rude, you know, it's not connecting.
And I
Yeah.
get yelled at all day long for it. And I say to people, you know, I didn't make it. Don't, and this one guy was yelling at me. I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to help you. If you continue to yell at me, I'm not going to help you. Right.
So we have a lot of people that are upset, angry, right? So instead of talking about happiness, we have to like take a step back. Anger management, right? You know, damage control. So a lot of issues that people are dealing with. You know, we live in a society where I don't want to say everyone, but there's, you know, everyone talks about mental health and therapy for this and therapy for that, and you know, just take a few pills here and a few of this, a few of that. And one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is the underlying issue of what is stopping people from being happy. So last week we said, okay, great, you have to have gratitude and you need this and you need that. We spoke about things that are outside of us, right? We spoke about having appreciation, recognizing the blessings that we have that are given to us. But then there's something internal, which if it's not dealt with properly, then it's going to impede us from having true happiness and joy in our life. And what I'm referring to is our self-perception, how we look at ourselves, our capabilities, our talents, what we're able to accomplish. Everyone, some people more than others, everyone has some insecurities in their life. Some people, they love, if they have a favorite restaurant they always go to, right? So they're comfortable going to that restaurant. And then all of a sudden they have to go to a new place. They don't like that. They don't enjoy going to a new restaurant because it's out of their comfort zone. Some people in their own home, they can be loud and they can be leaders and they can have this very loud presence. And everyone's like, wow, look at this person. And as soon as they're out of their comfort zone, all of a sudden they're meek and quiet and shy, and they're a whole different person. And everyone has their insecurities, and that's okay. It's okay to have that, but if we have a low self-esteem or if we have a negative perception of our abilities and our talents and what we can do, that's going to stop us from leading a truly happy and joyous life. So, you know, they say there's this guy that's on a date and he's talking for hours and hours. He's talking for 2 hours all about himself. And he realizes, you know, this isn't really such a good idea, right? You know, 2 hours by myself, you know, I'm talking for 2 hours. And so he tells the girl, you know, all right, enough talking about me. Now, enough of me talking. Now you tell me, what do you think of me?
What did he say?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's another guy who was struggling with his self-esteem. And he goes to his therapist. He says, actually, this week I got a great compliment. I called my credit card company to check my balance, and they said I have an outstanding balance. Um, right? That's positive, right? There we go. Something good is happening. So if we look on page 50, can you imagine we're up to page
This is
50
my
already?
book.
Yes, that's for you, Julie. We turn to page number 50 of a quick exercise. We have a whole list of questions over here. And what I love about this course is it forces you to like stop and think about things that you may not ever do otherwise. You may just live your life and keep going, but it gives you like this opportunity, like, hey, let me think about something which I don't struggle with this. I don't have a problem with this. And then you're like, wait, actually, let's see how my score is over here. You don't have to share your answers.
I thought 4 was.
I have a score of 12. What does that
There's a
mean?
mistake. There's a mistake in the formula.
Obviously. I
Yeah.
think- I don't know. Because it says 4 strongly disagree and 1 strongly agree. And
Yeah, no, there's a mistake. I think they reversed the formula, or they reversed the scoring.
well, it says at the end to determine your score first, reverse score the ratings and certain other ones for these change and then add up
So
the
I
10
think
ratings.
I think it's supposed to be the other way around. I think you're supposed to reverse score the one, right? You know what I mean? There's a mistake on the ratings, so don't
Oh.
take it. I know that there's a mistake there. I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to be. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, you're right, they're backwards, because the highest you
eight,
can get is 40.
Yeah.
12,
And the lowest is
16,
10.
3 is 19.
So I think for questions,
So just reverse them.
I think reverse it. Yeah. All right, so we have a bunch of great questions here. I feel that I'm a person of worth equal to others. I have a number of great qualities. All in all, I'm inclined to feel that I'm a failure. I'm able to do things as well as most other people. I feel I do not have much to be proud of compared to most others. That's important, right? Compared to others. I take a positive attitude toward myself. On the whole, I'm satisfied with myself. I wish I could have more respect for myself. I certainly feel useless at times. At times, I think I'm no good at all.
Yeah, the only one where I had something in the middle was number 9, but it was like I only have 12. That's not very high.
Right. So I'm going to figure out I know that there's a mistake here.
But you can also go through stages, like I felt down in the past and then I've pulled myself up.
That's
So
true.
Well,
it's
I
been
certainly
good.
feel useless at times. Sometimes you're frustrated or a situation arises where you can't do anything and you feel kind of helpless. But
Yes,
I don't fret
I think
about
it's
it.
more like you feel useless, that you're not contributing, you can't do anything.
Right,
You can't hold a
exactly.
job, you can't contribute to society, you can't even cook a dinner, you can't, I don't know, I'm just throwing things out there. Yeah, there are certainly things beyond our control, but I think it's talking about your feeling of your self-worth. So there are many people that everyone in different degrees, but there are some people that have a really hard time with their self-esteem. I know someone who cannot get themselves to go on a date because of the way they perceive themselves and the way they look at themselves, and they can't move on in life. And that's, there's many people which struggle in various areas in their life because they're worried, how are people going to look at me, or really because of the way they look at themselves and what they're capable of doing. And sometimes they're right? Sometimes I am never going to be as charismatic. I'm never going to be a great speaker like that person. I'm never going to be as smart as that person. But oftentimes it's overdone. And it's really disconnected from reality. So they blow up a certain issue because they're comparing themselves to someone else, or they're looking, everyone has their strengths and talents. Like, oh, you may be great at one thing, and you're saying, oh, why can't I do that? You're focusing on another area. So in text number 1, Rabbi Dr. Abraham J. Twersky, I think he has a couple of other titles at the end of his name. He passed away in 2021. He's a really famous scholar, rabbi and he's authored over 50 books. All right, that tells you something.
Oh, he's
Um,
the guy from Gateway.
yes,
Yes, he
you know
worked.
about him.
Yes,
You may have
yes.
seen some of his
Amazing. Yeah.
videos.
The psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist. He was an expert in substance abuse. I have some of his books at home. I can't say I've read them all cover to cover, but I definitely read some of his books. He's very well known. And Irv, why don't you start us off with text number 1
Where am I?
on page 52.
Oh, 52. Although many people are aware that they have little self-confidence and that they harbor feelings of inadequacy, they believe these feelings are justified because they're convinced their inadequacies are real. Quite often, this self-perception is incorrect, and the low self-esteem and poor self-confidence are in reality unjustified. Many people see themselves as less than what they are in reality, and they are fully convinced that their perceptions are absolutely correct. Others' opinions to the contrary, and even concrete evidence of their excellence, may have little or no impact. As I studied the negative self-image problem, I found that most profound feelings of low self-esteem paradoxically occur most often in those who are in reality most gifted and competent. It appears that the person who develops a negative self-image sees himself as if he were looking through a trick lens, which distorts the perception in such a manner that the person sees himself as the opposite of what he actually is.
Right. So you can try and tell a person how good they are, how amazing they are, but it doesn't work. They still look at themselves in a certain way. And we see this actually in the Torah, in the famous story of the spies. When Moshe sent 12 spies into the land of Israel to scout out the land. And what happened? It wasn't a good ending, right? They went and their job was to see what's going on over there. The people they're afraid of us. Is it a strong land? Is it fortified cities? Do they have a good army? Their job was to report back, what's the situation in what was known as the land of Canaan at the time. So of the 12 spies, and who were the 12 spies? They were the leaders of the Jewish people. They were the heads of each tribe was chosen to represent their tribe in this scouting mission. And they go there and they come back with a devastating report. And 10 out of the 12 tribes, 10 out of the 12 leaders of the tribes, the spies, said one thing, while 2 of the 12 spies said something completely different. They all had the same experience. They all went to the same place. They all saw the same things, but they came back with very different reports. So 10 of the spies came back with a terrible report. They said, we'll never be able to conquer this land. Why? Because the people there are giants. They're massive. And they brought back massive clusters of fruit to show that the food that grows in this land is not like regular food. It's massive, and this place is not a normal place. So they said, number 1, that the people there are giants. Text number 2, this is a quote from the Torah of what the spies said. So this is what 10 of the 12 spies said. There we saw giants of immense height. And here's the key. In our eyes, we seemed like grasshoppers, and we looked the same to them. So what do these spies say? We're like nothing compared to these big giants. We're like little grasshoppers. And that's how we looked at ourselves, and we looked the same to them. They made an assumption that these giants looked at them as grasshoppers. How are they to know? They had no idea what the giants thought of them, but they decided that we're like these little nothings. So they must look at us as little nothings, so we have no chance of conquering this land. And they totally forgot about how Hashem took us out of Egypt, split the sea, the manna, and all the miracles and the great capabilities that Hashem had to very easily conquer this land. And they said, no, we're like nothing. We'll never be able to succeed. We'll never be able to conquer this land because they look at us as grasshoppers. So we see that's an example that we see in the Torah, and this is quoted many times, this story, this as an example of something we shouldn't do. Something as Jewish people, we're not supposed to lay low and look down upon ourselves. We're like this small little nation. We're supposed to be proud of who we are and what we represent. And when we look down at ourselves, we say, "Oh, we're like we deserve," whatever it may be, or whatever negative ideas and thoughts we may have. Other people are going to gravitate towards that, and they're going to say, "Oh, that's what these people are." Whereas when we do the opposite, then people have a respect. But what do we do about this, right? So low self-esteem or negative images about ourselves date back thousands of years, right? So how are we going to how do we deal with any of these types of insecurities or negative ideas that we have? So that's question number one. And the second question we're going to address tonight is taking it a step further. Is sometimes people, they don't just doubt their abilities, but they also doubt their existence. Why am I here in this world? What am I worth? There's billions of people, billions of creatures. What am I? I'm a nothing. What is the purpose of my existence? What can I contribute to society? Why is there a need for me to be here in this world? And we tell our children, "Oh, you're so talented, you're so this," right? So when we tell other people, it's always easy to boost others, right? So what's a common answer? Somebody say, "What's the purpose of why we're here in this world?" What's like a common answer that will come to mind? Why do I exist? What am I here for?
Well, some think just to procreate,
To procreate, so to be here for others,
right?
right?
To love,
So
to spread love.
to spread love.
Yeah, it's that.
So there's a running theme over here, a very common idea that people will share is, I'm here to help other people. I'm here to help the homeless. I'm here to uplift others and to take care of others. So why do they exist?
We're here to do good.
We're here to do good, right? So next week we're gonna talk a lot about our purpose and mission. But I'm just bringing this up. I bring up this idea that people struggle with this. Why am I here? Why do I need to be here? Someone else could be doing this. Is it really necessary for me to exist? And there are people that have that struggle with this. Some people think about it. Some people don't think about it. But some people, this is a real active struggle. They wake up in the morning. What am I doing here in this world? And in a negative way, right? There's no need for me to be here, and they struggle with their existence here in this world. So we're going to tackle these two ideas. And we're going to build a Jewish, a proper, healthy Jewish perception of how a person should look at themselves. And that's going to lead us all the way at the end towards building on living a joyous and happy life. So it's going to come full circle. So let's go to text number 3. Linda, do you want to read for us on page 55?
God created humankind in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and over all of the beasts that tread upon the earth."
So what do we have over here? Number 1, we're created in the image of God, right? And number 2, what is our job? Like Irv said, to be fruitful and multiply. That's something that we have to do, but also to subdue it, to subdue the world that we were put into. So the Torah doesn't call us. We have a lot of talents that we're given, right? We're the only species that has free choice. We can truly choose to do good or to do bad. We can overcome our instincts that perhaps we're born with. We can have self-mastery. We can control ourselves, and we can truly decide to do something even if it's difficult for us and against our nature. But the Torah Hashem doesn't say, "You know what? You're the people. You're Mr. Choosers, or you're Mr. Intellect. You're right. We have intellect. We're blessed with that ability to think and to innovate. And as we're doing such a good job here in the world, but we're called in the image of God, because what are we gifted with? We're gifted with the ability to be partners with Hashem in creation of the world. Hashem created the world it was imperfect, And Hashem gave us the job to be partners with Hashem in perfecting the world, tikkun olam, to fix the world, to make the world a better place. So it's giving us that. Why did Hashem do this? To give us that ability to be like Hashem, to be like God. And there's two parts to our job here in this world. So on the one hand, we have the physical part aspect, where we have to, Hashem gave us a beautiful world, but it's our job to extract the natural resources from the world, to plant beautiful gardens and trees, to fashion tools. Noah, right? We just read the story of Noah. Why was Noah called Noah? Noah means pleasantness. So he was the first one to invent farming tools. Until Noah, everybody used their bare hands. And he invented farming tools. So everyone called him Noah because he brought pleasantness to the world. So that's an example. Today we can go all the way into technology and AI. Like we're way more advanced than that at this point. But one of our jobs here in this world is to be a partner to Hashem, to live up to this title of being created in the image of Hashem, and to innovate and to make this, to bring out the best in this physical world. And then we have, and on a deeper level, on the spiritual side of things, right? Our job is to take this physical world, which is, before the world was created, there was just Hashem. And whatever existed, I don't want to get too Kabbalistic here, right? It was whatever space there may or may not have been was filled with Hashem. Hashem was what was sensed and what was felt. And Hashem desired to create this world. So Hashem said, in order to create this world, I have to contract and conceal myself, hide myself, because otherwise the world won't be able to exist. There won't be free choice. There won't be the ability for humankind to do what we have done here in this world, because you're going to sense Hashem's presence. So in order for this to be worth anything, I watched a great video. There's a rabbi who was talking, and he said, okay, you're not perfect. Your job isn't to be perfect. What Hashem desires is the journey that you're going through. Hashem doesn't want a perfect. Hashem has many angels. All the angels are perfect. Hashem wants your hard work. That's what Hashem desires. You don't have to get to the finish line. You don't have to be a perfect creation. But Hashem wants to see you sincerely trying and going through that journey. So our job here in this world is not just to extract and beautify the physical world, but also to reveal the godliness and the spirituality in this world, to make this world not just a better place, but a more godly place. So that in this physical world where Hashem's presence isn't sensed and felt naturally, our job is to reveal that here in this world. Any questions?
I was just going to add something.
Yeah.
I don't know if other people, sometimes you read obituaries and some of the things that people accomplished or they did, and then I say, huh?
What have I done?
What have I done or
Right.
whatever. But I even had made a comment because my kids, with my sister-in-law who just passed away last evening, we were,
Oh.
reminiscing about things. And I said, my mother almost had an abortion because it was the end of the Depression and she ended up not having it. And so I'm here. And my kids said, yeah, and we're here.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't, they wouldn't be. So I guess, yeah, it sometimes you want, I don't know. I try to think, do I do enough?
Right.
I don't know.
The two thoughts come to mind, Sherry. The Nobel Peace Prize. Is everyone familiar with the story of the Nobel Peace Prize? I
Mhm.
forgot his first name, but Mr. Nobel,
Albert or was it Albert?
Albert or Alfred,
Yeah.
right? One of those, right?
Okay.
He had a brother which passed away, and they got confused, and they wrote an obituary about him. And what did the obituary say? That this is the man which created, I don't remember if it was dynamite or it was dynamite.
I think it was some explosive.
Some explosion, right? And he caused death and destruction. And he's reading his own obituary. He's like, this is what I'm going to be remembered for. So he created the Nobel Peace Prize so that he should be remembered and for something good and for something positive. On a lighter note, Sherry, so sometimes these stories can inspire us. We should never feel down about ourselves
Mhm.
because everyone's given their specific mission and purpose in this world, which we'll get to. in a couple of minutes. But in the Torah portions, there's a few Torah portions which come one after the other. In the book of, I think it's in the book of Numbers or Deuteronomy, and in book of Numbers, it's Acharei Mos, which means after the death, and it talks about the death of the two sons of Aaron. So Acharei Mos, which means after someone passes away, what's the next parsha? Kedoshim, they're holy. All of a sudden, after someone passed away, they're holy and they were great and they were perfect. The obituaries are filled with all the beautiful things about them. So all of a sudden, your worst enemy, oh, he was such a good person.
When my daughter was young, and I was a single mother, and she's disabled and needs help. And I had this attitude that I knew I was going to live. God wasn't done with me. I had a job to do. I knew I was here to take care of her.
Right.
So I was never afraid.
You were never afraid, right?
Now she's all grown up.
And you're like, okay,
So,
Linda, we have a lot of jobs cut out for you. Don't worry. So we have this idea that the way the Torah, the way Hashem looks at us, is we're partners in creation. We have the ability to be partners in creation and to be like Hashem, because we're created in the divine image of God. So we have a very big job here in this world, but we still didn't address why do we need each and every individual person, right? So we understand why we need humanity, why Hashem created, okay, animals have their jobs, and obviously plants, nature has their job, and rocks and the earth and the dirt, everyone has their role. So Hashem created humanity, human beings, to be partners in the creation of the world, to help perfect the world. All right, but why does Hashem need me, right? Well, someone else can do the job better than me, right? So we still need to address the individual aspect to this question that somebody may have. Why am I the individual needed? So we have a very interesting law and ethics and the morals of Judaism in the value of life of a single individual. And I'll give an example in Jewish law. And in Jewish law, somebody comes to a town and they say, we want you to give us one person. And I think the case in the Talmud is, we want you to give us one female so we can do whatever we want. Or we're going to murder one of you. If you don't give up one person for us to murder, we're going to come and we're going to wage war against your whole village and your whole town. We're going to kill you all. So Jewish law says you cannot give up one. It doesn't make sense, right? Jewish law says you cannot give up one person's life to save the entire community. Do the math, right? Do a lottery, give up one person, sacrifice one person's life, and the whole town will be saved. But the Torah says no. Jewish law says you're not allowed to do that. An even harder, sadder question is, if you had, and this case came up in Israel after a terrorist attack many years ago, there was, I think it was in Lebanon. I think it was in Lebanon when, I don't remember the exact details of the story, but there's a building which collapsed, and there's rubble, and there's people that are alive at the top of the rubble. There's people that are on the bottom of the rubble. One of the things you can do to save more lives is bring in heavy machinery, and you can clear away a lot of the rubble. But by doing so, you may be able to save more lives. Let's say there were more people on the bottom floor, but you're going to be killing individuals, one or two people. This is a major question which came up, and it's a real practical, they need an answer right away. What do we do? And the chief rabbis of Israel got together, and they said, you're not allowed to bring in the heavy machinery. Even if you may be potentially saving more lives, we look at every person, every individual person as a whole world. So we don't look at a person as a number. And it's a very tough question, right? So, but putting that aside, putting aside the emotions, the idea is that we don't look at a person as a number, right? When the communists would put people in jail, they would take away their name, they would be assigned a number. Now you're prisoner number this. And I'm sure other countries do that as well. They would take away their identity. Judaism says no, one person is an entire world. So let's look at text number 4 on page 56. Mark, do you want to read for us?
Sure. Initially, only one human being was created. This is to teach us that one who destroys a single life is considered to have destroyed an entire world, and one who saves a single life is considered to have saved an entire world. It also communicates the greatness of God, for when a person mints many coins from the same mold, all the coins are alike, but God mints every person through the mold of the first human, and yet no two people are alike. Therefore, every person must say, the world was created for me.
That sounds really arrogant, right? You know, the world was created for me. Right? So what does it mean the world was created for me? It means it was for responsibility, right? I have such a strong responsibility that falls on me because can you imagine if Adam, the first man, said, you know what? I have this list of tasks and jobs that I need to do. I'll let somebody else do it. Well, there was nobody else, right? So Hashem created animals and the plants in multiples. Hashem didn't create just one animal. Hashem created herds of animals. When it came to the human beings, Hashem created one person, Adam. Why? To teach us this lesson that the world was created for me. I can't give up my job and give it over to somebody else, say, hey, somebody else will do my job. Because Hashem's relying on you. Just like if Adam would have said, oh, somebody else will do what I have to do, it obviously would have been a complete failure and it would never have happened and would have really messed up the entire plan of creation. The same is with us. Hashem gives each and every one of us individually a specific job and mission that only we can do, and we can't pass on to another person.
So is that to say that we all individually have our own world, so to speak, and we have to do what we can within our world to affect other people?
So first of all, to work on yourself as a person, right? To work on your own character traits, becoming a better person, and working on your own connection with Hashem, and then your family and community.
Right, so we can
Sure.
reach out from our world. Once our world is, we use the word stable, then we can reach out beyond that.
Correct. And you have there's one issue, right? Hashem, when your soul comes to this world, Hashem gives it like a list of tasks. Like, I'm sending you here and I need you to do all of these things for me. But Hashem didn't make it so easy to tell us exactly what you have to do. You have to find your calling, and there are different clues and hints that we get. Hashem helps us out along the way. But you have to find your calling. When a person has a certain talent, then that's like a sign, like, okay, let me invest my energy over there because I can, make this world a better place by doing A, B, C, or D, which is something that I excel in. So that can be a sign for a person to focus on that area. But the short answer is yes, right? Every person has their list, so to say, of things that they need to accomplish here in this world that they as an individual need to do.
So just a general question. How does the rest of humanity fit in where they're not Jewish?
So that's a very good question.
And so are there 15 million Jews in the world, right? And with billions of other people. So when Hashem created all this, seems like it didn't really work the way Hashem would have wanted to create it, because it's not even 1%. It's a minuscule percent of the human beings on this planet are Jewish, and if the other people aren't, seems, how does all this relate?
It's all even out.
Right. So thank you, because there's an assumption that this only refers to Jewish people.
Okay,
The first Jew was Abraham.
okay,
Abraham was considered to be the first Jewish person. Adam and Eve, although they were very close and connected to Hashem, created with their own, hands of Hashem, so to say, they weren't considered to even be Jewish. So when Hashem tells us, I think it was text number 3, that God created humankind in His image, in the image of God He created him, it doesn't say that God only created the Jews in His image.
right.
It's referring to the entirety of humankind. One of the reasons, or the reason why we don't proselytize and try to convince others to become Jewish, is because we say Hashem created you the way you are because Hashem wants you that way, and you're going to do your mission here in this world as a non-Jew, as a Gentile. We believe that you should believe in one God, and you should there's a whole list of things we want you to believe in, right? So we're not telling you to bow down to idols, but we're not telling you to become Jewish either, because we value and we respect you for who you are, because Hashem wants you to be you. Hashem didn't create you to be Jewish. And that doesn't mean that you're not
Too bad
perfect,
for them.
right? So that's one way of looking at it. But for them, that's their mission here in this world.
But how do they get there?
The
Mission.
same way we do.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're taught.
So we have a
They-
Jewish soul, and they
Right.
have a different soul,
right.
right? So they have a different calling and a different mission here in this world, but they're still commanded. The entire right. Noah was given 7. It's called the 7 laws of Noah, but it's really 7 big principles. One of those laws is to have morals and ethics, to create a world which is where the world acts morally and ethically. That's a very, very generic mitzvah, right? That contains a lot in there. So the entire
Well, it's a Judeo-Christian
Right.
value system too, what you're talking about.
yeah, well, we look at more of the Judaic values.
Right.
They took some of their values from us, because they do read the Old Testament.
As they call it, yeah.
Yeah, but then, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
But then why are some people praying to Allah and feel that they're going to the other side because they're doing bad?
So I don't want to get too off track, right? Getting into
And
other
that's-
religions. So I'll answer your question. It's a good question. Something fascinating to know is that as a Jew, we believe in one Hashem, and we believe Hashem doesn't need any helpers. The angels are mechanisms that Hashem uses, but Hashem doesn't need the angels. When we spoke about this on Shabbos, when there's a tzaddik, a righteous person that you go to for a blessing, you're not asking them, you're asking them to help connect you with Hashem. They have some good political connections, right? So they're closer to Hashem, they can help connect you to Hashem, but Hashem doesn't need them as a helper. So as a Jew, you have to believe in one Hashem. Hashem created the entire universe. Hashem didn't need any helpers. The angels weren't there to help Hashem do this job. Hashem is one God which did everything. But we don't expect someone who's not Jewish to have that same level of belief. And we say, you know what? We want you to believe in one God. If you want to believe in a prophet and a little bit of a helper here or there, okay, you know what? We're not going to hold you to the same standard that we hold a Jewish person to. So, as a very interesting note, and then I don't want to, I can get very sidetracked, so I'll get back on track in a moment. You brought up a very good point, which is a Jewish person is allowed to go into a mosque, because we don't consider, they look at Allah as a prophet, not as a son of God or as a helper to God. So we say, you know what, you can believe in that, and we don't consider that to be idolatry, and you'll be allowed to walk into a mosque. Whereas a church, we do consider it to be idolatry, and a Jew shouldn't walk into a church, because this is a place of idolatry, worshiping idols, which is something which is strictly forbidden for a Jew. But anyways, going back to where we were before. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so two points. So one, when the Mashiach comes, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that all of the benefits that will come to Jews will also come to good non-Jews.
Right.
So that's accurate. Okay, so that's one. Second point I wanted to make is that when we're performing mitzvot, we don't just target those toward Jews. So let's say it's visiting the sick. I mean, that's still a mitzvah if you visit someone that's not Jewish, if they're sick and if they're in the hospital.
So that's a good
Am I on track with that?
So it's a good question, right? So each specific mitzvah depends on, right? So that's a good generic mitzvah, right? Which is there for everyone. There's mitzvahs. So for example, I'll give you an example, right? We have a mitzvah to give tzedakah. Somebody's poor, we have a mitzvah to help them. The mitzvah of tzedakah, don't tell anyone, I won't put the recording online, right? The mitzvah of tzedakah, technically, from the Torah, is that a Jew should help another Jew. You have to help your family. If your brother is hungry, you have to help them. The rabbi said, you know, if we're going to start these funds and we're going to have soup kitchens, and we're going to, in every city today, you know, when the Jewish, was time of Jewish reign, every city would have a tax. You have to give to this fund this amount, and that fund that amount, and there were collection funds, you know. So they said, well, we can't only give to Jewish people because we're going to cause a lot of anti-Semitism if we do that. So while technically there's a special mitzvah to help your family, which is the entirety of the Jewish people, we say, no, we're going to include everyone in this. So there are certain mitzvahs where the mitzvah is specifically for a Jewish person, not because we're discriminating against another person, but this unique mitzvah is only to help your family. I'll give a better example. We're really going far off over here, and we'll circle back, which is okay. The Torah says it's forbidden for a Jew to charge another Jew interest, but a non-Jew, you can charge them interest. You're discriminating, right? It's not, no. Really, it makes sense that you should charge interest. That's how the economy runs. But if your brother needs help, your sister needs help, you're not going to charge them interest. I hope not, right? You help them out. They need some money, and hopefully they pay you back. So you help them out, interest-free loan. Because why? Because we're family. So that's probably a better example of something where the mitzvah specifically, you're not allowed to charge interest to another Jewish person, and you should charge interest to someone not Jewish. Why? Because that's the normal way the world works. That's the economy can only run. If you don't charge interest, you're never going to give out loans. So it's a good thing to charge interest. But your brother, your sister, you got to be kind and nice to them.
And to go back to charity for a moment, there would still be a mitzvah to donate to a non-Jewish organization. Let's say it's the American Cancer Society.
Right, because they're helping. So there's levels of charity. The Rambam lists 8 levels of charity. Your family comes first. So if you have a family member which is in need,
That's a whole nother course.
right? Exactly. All right, we'll get there. Okay. So let's go back. We have a video. Let's go to a video. It'll be a good time for our video to.
You have to make these 4-hour classes for 1 hour.
There's too much.
Here we go. We get out of the way.
If humanity is an enormous extended family, we stand to gain an estimated average of
I'm not getting it.
380,000 siblings each day. That rate are born into this sunny planet, which kind of makes us as individuals. It's as a drop of rain amid a raging rainstorm, doesn't it? Well, Judaism dares to differ. The Torah begins with a narrative of absolute creation. God creates things into being from sheer nothingness. God is not stingy. He creates countless cows, dozens of doves, and battalions of butterflies. He commands into existence sufficient shrubs, trees, and delightful daffodils to swaddle the newborn landscape in lush foliage. When all is set up and running, God turns his attention to the point of it all. The creation of unique creatures whose bodies, carved from the clay of corporality, hewn from the heights of heaven, what's this between creator and creation? At that point, God makes an astonishing move. Instead of hatching a herd of humans or composing a complete population, God creates just one, a single lonely mortal. The ancient Jewish sages explain this mystery. God was sending a message to each individual across all of time and under any circumstance. You matter. Not as a drop in an endless flow of people. Not as a statistic, but as an individual. You are equal to all of humanity in God's. No, you didn't choose to be, but God chose because his world was incomplete without you. You are irreplaceable to him, and he delighted in your birth, just as he rejoiced over the first human. Your actions are no less meaningful and precious than that of the first person upon whom the eyes of all the heavens and the fate of all the earth rested. Your birth was a divine statement, a divine investment. It was God himself singing out loud into your ears. You matter. Believe in yourself.
So this idea, it's not just something we tell to people that are struggling. Oh, you matter. We really need you. You're important. But this is actually something real. This is from Hashem. that we believe very strongly that there's a direct connection between every individual and Hashem. Hashem didn't create the world and just throw us down and say, all right, we'll see you in 120 years, right? Hashem continues to care for each and every one of us, helps us, provides for us, listens to our prayers, sometimes says no, and has expectations from each and every one of us. We're all here for a specific reason and with a lot of work to do. And we learned that all from Adam, who was the first person to be created. Any questions? Not yet. Okay. There's actually a story, and the story happens to be, it's a true story. It's a person who was a young scholar, and I was told the name of the person that wrote this letter to the Rebbe. This question is today one of the greatest Rosh Yeshivas, one of the smartest and most talented teachers of deep Torah, of deep Talmudic thought. And he wrote a letter to the Rebbe that he's a young student, and he sees that there are prodigies and there's geniuses, young people that know so much more than him, and he's nothing compared to them. And he's like, well, what is this, right? Why are they all so successful and they're all doing so well? And what about me? So the Rebbe's response was like, I'm taken aback at the whole perception of your question, that you're comparing yourself to another person. Everyone's created with their specific talents and jobs here in this world. One person will be a great Torah scholar. One person will be a great banker. One person will be a great orator. Another person will be, everyone is going to have what they're good at and what they're bringing to the world. So why are you comparing yourself? It's great to be inspired and to set a high standard for yourself, but don't compare yourself to somebody else's job. Together with this individual mission that we have, Hashem says, you're going to do this. And so what that person is good at that, but that's not for you. And if you'll be doing what that person is doing, you're messing up the whole thing, because that's not your job. You're messing up the whole recipe. So let's look at text number 6. Julie, do you want to read for us on page 58?
Just as we must believe in God, so too we must afterward believe in ourselves, that God cares about us, that we are not worthless laborers, that we possess divine souls, and that God takes pleasure and joy when we fulfill his desire.
So just like you believe in Hashem, so that's the foundation. When you believe in Hashem, it doesn't make you less of an entity. It actually makes you a greater entity, because you're believing in Hashem and you know that Hashem cares about you and has expectations from you. That helps you believe in yourself even more. So a person can say, I'm never going to be as charming as this person, or as intelligent as that person, or as successful as that other person, but that really doesn't matter, because we all have our individual list, and we have to believe in ourselves for what we were created for and for what our strong points or what our strong points are. So in text number 7, Sherry, do you want to read for us on page 60?
Page 50?
60.
Oh, 60. Oh,
60.
okay. 60. Okay. Recognizing strengths. In response to your letter with your complaints about your spiritual status, I assume you read my talks in which I explained that a condition for orderly spiritual growth is to avoid burdening yourself with foundationless accusations and claims. If you desire to improve, then just as you need to know your shortcomings, so you must know your personal strengths. This is important because spiritual growth hinges on a positive mood, not on constant self-degradation. You have a number of things, both in terms of your studies as well as your actions, that should make you happy about yourself. Knowing these will give you the power to pursue spiritual growth.
So this is a letter of the previous Rebbe, so our Rebbe's father-in-law. And this is a concept, an idea that he repeated not just here in this letter, but dozens upon dozens of times. And it's one of his famous teaching of his, which is we always talk down about ourselves, right? I don't know about what type of Hebrew school education you had or the type of home you grew up in. you did this, you're gonna burn, and you're gonna do that, the God's gonna hate you, and we have not everyone here, okay, but some people grew up with that mentality and with that type of atmosphere that you know, and Yom Kippur comes, oh God, I did this, I did that, I'm a sinner, I'm a terrible person, and sometimes we focus too much on the negative and on the punishment, and that really pulls us down. I say, I'm such a bad person. I get this all the time, Rabbi. I'm not religious, or I'm a bad Jew, so why do I need to do tefillin? Why do I need to light Shabbos candles? Why should I bother with one mitzvah? I'm a bad person anyway. I'm a bad Jew, or I'm a bad Jew anyway. So that's a certain atmosphere, which is definitely prevalent, with the post-Holocaust generation. There's definitely a lot of that was there. But the previous Rebbe, who passed away in 1950, right, talking about post-Holocaust, he said, no, the same way you have to know your negative attributes, you have to know where you have to improve, you have to know your strengths. And not only do you have to know your strengths, how do you define who you are as a person? Not by anything negative that you may have. If a person has something that everyone has something negative about them, right? So we say that's something that you have that. Okay, so you have this issue that you have to deal with. But who are you? You're a godly soul. You're a beautiful person. You're connected to Hashem, and Hashem loves you. There's a story, another story of a person that wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and he wrote, Rebbe, I'm just going to tell it to you the way it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And he starts writing about how difficult things are, and he's going through such a hard time, and he's this, and he's that, and really talking down about himself. And there's no name. What we get the Rebbe's response back to him, but we don't have his original letter or his name. But you can see from the Rebbe's response what his question was and what he wrote. So the Rebbe said, you write to me that you're going to tell me the situation the way it is. And you go on to describe in very bleak terms, what your spiritual status is at the moment. So the Rebbe said, those words, Kemo Shahi, the way it is we find that in the Talmud. Anyone remember? Right? So it says it's in the Talmud not too many times. We have a dispute between two famous schools of thought, the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel. And the question is like this. Someone's getting married, and there's a bride, there's a groom, and everyone's excited, they're dancing, and there's a mitzvah to be misameach, to bring joy to the bride and to the groom. And it says that the great rabbis, they would all of a sudden pull out their juggling tricks, and they would do all sorts of fun things just to bring joy to the chassan and the kala, the bride and the groom. And the Talmud says, okay, what should you be saying? How should you bring joy to them? So Hillel says, you should always say, kala na'ava chasuda, which means, what a beautiful and sweet and good-looking bride that she is. Right? You should sing her praises, tell her how beautiful she is. And Shammai says, no, just tell her the truth. Right? If she's not beautiful, she's not beautiful, right? Just tell it to her the way it is. So the Rebbe told this person, you wrote to me in your letter that you're telling it to me the way it is. That's what Shammai said. Shammai was always on the strict side of things. And the law is only like him 4 times. And there's hundreds of disputes between Shammai and Hillel. The law, except for 4 times, is always like Hillel. What does Hillel say? No, you tell her how beautiful she is. But what if it's not the truth? Well, first of all, she's beautiful in the eyes of the person she's marrying. So maybe you don't look at her as beautiful, but someone is. But Hashem looks at every person as being beautiful. Hashem looks at a person, okay, you have an issue. It's something that you have, but it's not who you are. It doesn't define you as a person. Hashem looks at each and every one of us as a child, and just like a parent loves a child, Hashem loves each and every person. So there's some shortcomings, there's some issues. We all have issues we have to deal with. But Hashem says, I'm not going to look at you the way you are. I'm going to look at the beauty. And if we focus on the positive, then all the negative is going to be expelled and it's going to be taken away, because we're busy focusing on the good and what's important. So the wording is very important over here, that you define yourself by your good qualities, not by your shortcomings. Not to say that we don't have shortcomings, that we're ignoring them, but who are we as a person? We have to look at how great we are by our good qualities. That's who we really are. And we're not just doing this to boost ourselves, but because this is actually really, really the truth. So
and that goes back to the obituary, right? Because that's how we want to be remembered by things that we've done that are positive.
Correct. And we hope that we didn't invent the dynamite, right? And we're not remembered for those things.
But you also want to memorialize that person.
Yeah, so we want to
That
focus on,
person meant to you.
so every person, right, the eulogy, the obituary is going to be about what they excelled in, what they brought to the world, what people appreciated about them. So to bring this full circle, right, we started off talking about people suffer with negative feelings, self-perception, low self-esteem, questions about why do I exist, why am I here? And we built the Jewish definition and the Jewish picture of how a person should look at themselves. We're partners and partners with Hashem in creation of the world, the physical and the spiritual side of things. We spoke about the mission and purpose that we have. Every person has their job as an individual that they're necessary and needed for here in this world. We're like Adam, the first man. Every person is a world unto their own. We can't give over no one else can do what we can do. And then we spoke about who are we? We have to, many times we think negative things about ourselves. We have to shift, change that into thinking, defining ourselves by our positive qualities. That's who we really are. And spending time not to in a boastful way, but to spend time and say, you know what? I did a lot of good things. I'm a good person. I did this, I did that. Not to put aside our shortcomings. There's a time for that, but our focus in defining who we are as a person is boosting ourselves because that's the truth. So that is, we can end the class right here, and you can go watch the basketball game, right? But there's another important aspect to it, which this is all the foundation. This is all so important, and this is the Jewish view of how we should be looking at ourselves. So I want to welcome Yaakov, Jamie, who's able to join us.
He looks like you.
He looks like me. He's Hal's son. Joining us live from Miami, right? I think you're still in Miami. You didn't move yet. It's another part of Florida. So there's a character trait which can help a person, which is dealing with low self-esteem, negative thoughts about themselves, about their abilities and their talents, and that is humility. Now, you think if you're a therapist, which Jamie Yaakov is studying to become a therapist, right? If you go to your teacher and you tell them, someone's suffering from low self-esteem, tell them to have more humility. I mean, they'll be like, no, you flunked this class, right? That someone with low self-esteem doesn't need more humility. They need to be boosted and lifted. So if you turn to page 64, we have a question: how do you define humility? So you can check all that apply. Is humility a low view of oneself, being modest about oneself when talking to others, refraining from flaunting, a middle ground between low self-esteem and arrogance, or other? How would you define humility? If anyone wants to share, can.
I think being modest about oneself when talking to others, because you don't want to be conceited.
And refraining from flaunting.
And you don't want to be obnoxious.
I think it depends on what the issue is.
It depends.
What do you mean?
Well, so let's say in the business that Herb and I are in, we want to, I don't know that we want to be humble. We want to let clients know that we're darn good at what we do.
Right.
Okay, so maybe you're not practicing humility in that specific case, right? You don't have to always be. Maybe you don't always have to be practicing humility.
We are good at what we do.
Right, of course. And if we don't know, you'll make sure to tell us.
There may not be anybody else to pat ourselves on the back, so we gotta pat
Right,
ourselves.
yeah.
But
I'll tell
but
Nancy.
having humility is really not having to tell somebody how good you are.
But sometimes they don't know.
Right, but
I mean, when you have a new client, they may not know.
no, they
After
don't.
they go through a cycle with you, then they'll know.
Well, but
After
I
you
think-
gave them a bunch of money, they know.
I think what this is really saying is that in defining humility, it's I forgot. My dad used to say to me, self-praise stinks. And I think that was his way of saying that so you can impress people by your actions. You don't have to tell people how good you are.
Well, again, I think it depends on the issue. My example, I'm sticking with that.
That what do you, I'm not sure what you're
The
trying to
example
say.
that we would self-praise, if you want to use that word, with regard to our skills.
You mean tell people how good you are?
Let them know that they're in
When
good
it comes
hands.
to our profession.
So you're talking about having self-confidence, being sure, being
That you
being
can-
sure that you're, I know what I've got you, right? Letting the client know I've got your back and you're in good hands. Okay. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have an idea, Rabbi.
Yeah, go
Sorry.
for it.
I can't. I don't know the hand. I don't know the hand raised on my phone. You can
Oh,
raise
it's
your
all
hand.
good. Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Um, knowing that like the humility is knowing that um, everything's from everything. All your blessings and everything you do comes from Hashem. So all your gifts and everything that you're good at, like you realize, like it's not me, it's Hashem. Like I maybe did the effort and put the hishtolkius. Is that the right word?
So recognizing that what you do, you're just, you're doing your part, right? Recognizing where your blessings come from. Or in other words,
Yeah, but it's not like people always are like, it's me. Oh, I'm this. I'm the. People always like, oh, it's me. It's me. It's me. Oh, I did this. I did this. Well, no, Hashem did it. You just, you maybe took the first step.
You were the messenger.
Yeah, you were the messenger or took the first step.
You were blessed to be in this position, right?
Yeah, right.
You're Hashem's messenger. So I'll reframe your words, and I think you're spot on. So the Jewish definition of humility, not to say that any of this isn't humility, but actually all the options we gave is not the Jewish definition of, the Hebrew word is anivos, humility. Moshe was the greatest person to ever exist. Look at everything Moshe did for us. His name is in every parsha, practically every parsha. And he said, if somebody else would have been, he said he was the humblest person to exist. How could he be humble? Did he not recognize how great he was? He was like the leader of the Jewish people. How could you be humble? Like he wasn't blind to what he accomplished and what he did. But he said, if somebody else would be in my position, they would have done a better job. That was his outlook. But let me reframe or rephrase what Jamie was saying. The Jewish definition of humility is taking yourself out of the picture. It's taking yourself out of the picture. So we're creating a different definition over here. Let's look at text number 9. Page 65. So this is from the Rebbe Rashab, the 5th Chabad Rebbe, whose birthday was actually today, the 20th of Cheshvan. So special to learn something from his teachings. And he writes as follows. He was known as the Rambam, the Maimonides of Hasidic thought. He had extensive writings and Hasidic discourses and explained things in really, really very well and detailed. Let's take a look. Humility is not synonymous with feelings of inferiority, or with not finding within yourself any good, or with thinking that you're on a bad path, God forbid. That's not humility. To have humility means to not sense yourself. Although you are good and on the correct path in matters of Torah and mitzvot, and although you are committed to serving God with great self-sacrifice, so you pause right there, right? So you're doing great. Nevertheless, you do not aggrandize or think aggrandize, thank you, or think that you have reached some unique level. It is not that you do not know about your good, it's that you don't claim credit or think that you have earned special standing. And this results from being completely unabsorbed in yourself. So is it a healthy thing to not be absorbed in yourself, right? So what we want to suggest today is that, yes, we live in a generation where everything is, I remember when I was in yeshiva, I had a teacher that said, everything is Microsoft, my paint, my this, my that. Today it's iPad, iPhone, everything is all about I. We spoke about technology before, and we live in a generation where we're not happy. People aren't happy. You go back a few hundred years ago, I would bet that people were a lot happier with their simple lives than people generally, present company excluded, right? Than people generally are today. Because we live in this world, society, where we're always thinking about ourselves and worried about ourselves. Again, talking in generalities over here. If you think about someone that's just playing music, right? There's an expression, they got lost in the music. What does it mean they got lost? I think about a violinist, they're playing, and they got lost in the music. they're playing beautifully, and even more beautifully when they're lost in the music. What it means is not that they're not talented, it means that they're any concept of themselves is taken away. They let the music take over. Or perhaps a more relatable example for all those that aren't musically inclined, right, would be a soldier. A soldier's on this mission. It's June 6th, 1944. They're storming the beaches of Normandy. They're going, and they have this great mission ahead of them. And as they're charging forward, you think the soldiers think to themselves, I'm not sure that I'm the right person for the job. Let me start thinking about myself. Am I capable of this? And maybe there's somebody better than me. They're not, they're totally non-existent. They're a soldier with a mission at hand, and they're charging forward. And the same is true with all of us. So yes, everything we said till now, knowing our strengths, our abilities, and defining ourselves by those strengths, understanding that we're partners with Hashem and creation of the world, that's all true. But we can skip that whole discussion, and we can live in a whole different plane, which is that we can put ourselves aside. Hashem created us to be mission oriented. Instead of focusing on our identity, who we are, am I this, am I that, and going to therapy. I'm sorry, Jamie, we're going to put you out of a job over here, right? And going to therapy again, and looking at it this way, looking at it that way. Am I capable? Am I this? Am I that? Put yourself aside and focus on what you're needed for. Focus on what your mission here is. Be mission oriented. And if you are able to put yourself, and it may not be 24/7, right? But at times, and be like, you know what? I'm putting myself aside. I'm just going to do what's demanded of me. I'm going to do what I'm here for. I'm going to try to accomplish what Hashem put us here in this world for. Then this whole conversation we had, the last hour about what is our worth, why every person was created is an individual world, it's irrelevant, because we're going to stop being, think about your hands and your feet, right? I hope nobody here feels their left pinky, because if you did, it means it's in pain or there's something wrong, right? Our hands and our feet, they're not something that we're actively feeling at every moment, because it's something we don't talk about. It's not something which, like, okay, let's analyze our fingers, right? If we're talking about a healthy finger, it's something that we use. And the same is true of ourselves. Hashem created us for a purpose. So if we focus on our mission and our purpose, we take ourselves out of the picture and we say, you know what? It's not about me. It's about what I'm being asked to do. Then all of these issues, right? All the whole discussion of low self-esteem, the perception of ourselves, can I do the job? It's totally irrelevant, because right now you're a soldier and you have a task at hand, and you're going to do what you're told, and you're taking yourself out of the picture. And that's the definition, the Jewish definition, right? Not the Webster definition, but the Jewish definition of humility is focusing on your purpose, putting yourself out of the picture, not ignoring an issue that you have, right? So if a person has an issue, if their pinky is hurting, if their leg is hurting, you go to the doctor. If a person has real issues, they should go for therapy, and they should do whatever they have to do to deal with that. But at times you can lift yourself above everything and you say, you know what? I'm going to buckle down now. I'm going to put myself aside and focus on what I'm here for. So Viktor Frankl, we have a very powerful quote from him, and then we'll conclude with an exercise. On page 68, he made the case that a purpose mindset is inherent to the human condition and is integral to human happiness. Any volunteers to read text 11?
We study him in school, Rabbi Kedlowski.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we studied him. So
there's a cool story of Viktor Frankl and the Rebbe, but we'll save that for next week.
I'm gonna Google it.
Okay, so Viktor Frankl says as follows, right? In the Unheard Cry for Meaning, he writes as follows: the will to meaning is not only a matter of faith, but also a fact. Since I introduced the concept in 1949, it has been empirically corroborated and validated by several authors using tests and statistics. The will to meaning is not only a true manifestation of man's humanness, but also a reliable criterion of mental health. I thereby understand, Irving, you have to help me out again, the primordial anthropological fact that being human is being always directed and pointing to something or someone other than oneself. So again, being human is being always directed and pointing to something or someone other than oneself, to a meaning to fulfill, or another human being to encounter, a cause to serve, or a person to love. Only to the extent that someone is living out this self-transcendence of human existence is he truly human, or does he become his true self. He becomes so not by concerning himself with his self's actualization, but by forgetting himself and giving himself, overlooking himself and focusing outward. Consider the eye, an analogy I'm fond of invoking. When apart from looking in a mirror, does the eye see anything of itself? An eye with a cataract may see something like a cloud, which is its cataract. An eye with glaucoma may see its glaucoma as a rainbow hollow around the lights. A healthy eye sees nothing of itself. It is self-transcendent. What is called self-actualization is and must remain the unintended effect of self-transcendence. It is ruinous and self-defeating to make it the target. So why do we live in a world where people are so unhappy? It's because perhaps we're focusing so much on ourselves, and if instead we focus on our mission, our purpose, then that's actually going to make us a happier person. Because when we're doing what we're created for, what we're supposed to be doing, then we're in tune with our real self, and that actually will cause that will be a happier person. So to have humility from a Jewish perspective is to lose sense of self, take yourself out of the picture, and to focus on what you're meant to be doing, what you're here for, what your purpose is here in this world, which, God willing, next week is going to be the focus of our discussion, which the title of next week's class is Job Opening. What am I here for? So we spoke a lot about mission and purpose. What is our mission and purpose? What am I here for? So you have to come back next week for the rest of the details. But on page 69, we have a short exercise, and you can either write it down or you can just speak up and share. Which idea from this lesson will be most helpful for you to enhance and reinforce a healthy self-concept?
Or come say goodnight when you go to bed.
Where are you going into your room?
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Okay.
lay down.
Anyone want to be a little vulnerable? Share what idea from this lesson will be most helpful for you to enhance and reinforce a healthy self-concept?
To not focus on yourself and to focus on others.
To focus on your mission and purpose, yeah.
Because then, by focusing on others, you're taking your ego out of it and helping others, and you're gonna be more happy by doing that.
Beautiful.
I like that Hashem put me here for whatever my job is.
Yeah.
It's almost like it takes some of the responsibility away.
Right. You don't have to be what that other person accomplished. And if you would do their job, you're messing up the recipe. I think from everything we discussed, the idea of how do you define yourself? You define yourself by your strengths and not by your shortcomings. That's who you are as a person.
But several years ago, my very dear friend who passed away gave me a pillow. And it said, always be humble and kind. And I was blown away because I never thought of myself as humble or kind.
Mhm.
So now it's an extra special pillow.
I think it's also, we get wrapped up in that because that's always being pushed on us. You gotta do this, you gotta do that, then you gotta go do that. Then you gotta look beautiful, then you gotta look thin, then you gotta go shopping, and then you gotta go do this.
Right.
You know,
And what if you
being-
enjoy something else, right?
That's not who your essence is.
Yeah.
Society puts a lot of that on.
There's a lot of
We-
pressure on
take it.
us as humans. You don't gotta do anything, you gotta
Yeah.
just be you.
Yeah. That's one idea is just shut off the phone and don't listen, right? Shut out all the noise, but
But it's-
easier said than done. I know.
Like, I know myself, like, I for many years thought this, that I wasn't enough because
Mhm.
my brother always was the perfect, wonderful son, and I was just a blah, and then you believe that. And then like at work, I have a manager that would say to me, you're down here and I'm up here.
Wow.
And I'd say, excuse me, I am not down there. We are the same. You just might make more money than me, but that doesn't make you any better than me.
And you're on the
And
same
how
team.
Yeah.
are you allowed to talk to me that way? I won't tolerate that.
Seems like you
So then
had a
you
lot
start
of
believing
abusive
it. You
managers.
start believing it. You're like, oh my God, I am down. And then you realize one day those are just false limiting beliefs. And that's not who you are. That's not the essence of my
Yeah.
being.
And
And
not
you
only
wake
that,
up,
most of the people which have to talk that way,
have low self-esteem.
they have very low self-esteem. And that's why they're saying that. The only way they can lift themselves up is by putting someone else down.
But I was like abhorred. I'm like, how can you be saying that to me? Like, and then he would tell me on top of it that he was this religious person. And he said, I'm an asshole. And I go, why are you proud of being an asshole? I wouldn't be too proud of that.
Now they say on a lighter note, there was an agnostic once, which was hanging out with his friend, and his friend said, "Oh, you look like an angel." He had a hard time. Should he believe in himself anymore? Let's go
Rabbi,
to yeah, go for
sorry,
it.
I have one thing that helps me. I struggle with that too sometimes, all of it, but one thing that helps me, or at least I say to myself, is when, and I go with whoever, I can't see who's speaking because I'm not there, obviously, but, you say someone's below you, it's like, if you're a yid, you're a daughter or son of the king,
That's right.
that helps me, like, you think you're a piece of crap or whatever, and it's like, oh man, wait a sec, I'm the son of the king. I do deserve this. I do deserve this. I should be happy because I'm one of his chosen children. So
You're spot on.
just that alone gives me some,
That's
you
beautiful.
know,
And it's true. That's what goes back to the Shammai and Hillel debate. Shammai said, say the truth. This is what it is. And Hillel's like, no, this is a beautiful bride. Or what if she's not beautiful? Well, Hashem looks at her as beautiful.
oh
Right?
yeah,
She's the daughter of Hashem. She's the son of Hashem. So you're saying the truth. Just because you don't look at them as beautiful, but they are beautiful in the eyes of Hashem.
But is this why at the weddings you say they say it's a beautiful woman? They sing the song,
Exactly.
right?
That's the song. Kala na v'chasuda.
Yeah, yeah. I asked this
Right?
question.
Okay. Yeah, someone to back
I
me
asked
up
this
over
question to
here.
Chaim. I actually said, what if she's not though? Are you lying? And then he's like, oh, it's funny you say that. There's a debate in the Gemara about this. Is so funny.
Exactly, right? Yes,
Yeah,
I
I
guess it
learned
came
that.
after that. We spoke about that debate. All right, thanks for backing me up. I didn't make up any of the sources of the Talmudic teachings over here. So we have another question. In what way can I grow over the course of the next week in this regard? In terms of having a healthy self-concept and perception of ourselves.
Look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm good.
There you go. So I'll share something, try to take that a step further. Every day we're commanded to say the Shema in the morning and in the evening. And it's much easier now. It gets dark at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So you say that in addition to the Moda'ani, the most important prayer is the Shema in the morning and Shema at nighttime. And there's something in addition to the evening prayers, the Ma'ariv, there's something called Kriya Shema Sha'al Hamit, which means the bedtime Shema. So even if you davened the evening service and you said the Shema, we say the Shema again. And what do we do when we say the Shema again? It's a time for accounting. What have I accomplished today? What have I done to further my existence and the reason for my creation, the reason for my existence here in this world? And we have a Yiddish saying, Margin geht sein gar anders, which means tomorrow's going to be entirely different, much better. So something we can do at the end of the day is like, okay, what did I accomplish today? Focusing on the positive and the good, and say, tomorrow will be even better.
Are you the one that told us the Shema really isn't a prayer? When I hear
Did I say that?
Someone said that recently, that it's a declaration and not a prayer.
It is a declaration. Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel. We're making a declaration, but it's also a prayer. A prayer means connection. When we say the Shema, we're connecting to. So it's true. There's a declaration. I think it's also a prayer. But it is a good line, right? Because it is true. You're making that declaration, that statement.
Someone asked, like, what is the most important prayer? This is what where I heard this, but this was just recently I heard it. So I thought it was from you, but was
It
not.
wasn't, you see, you must be such a
So
Torah
if someone
scholar, you're
was
studying
Shema,
some.
then the answer was the Shema is not the most important prayer because it's not a prayer, it's a
It's a
declaration.
declaration. Okay, very cute. Yeah, okay. I agree that it's a declaration, you know, it is true, that's what it is. What will be the most difficult about doing so? Growing over the course of the next week in our, you know, I'll give it as last year I did this 400-hour course to become a certified chaplain at the hospital. So it's 300 hours of Zoom classes. And one of the areas that we focused on was this idea that we have a negative bias to ourselves. We have a bias. Everyone is biased, right? If I'm a client and I come and the person I'm soliciting, you know, their services from starts telling me about how great they are, I'll be like, okay, I think he's a little biased, right? I'm not sure that I'll be like, all right, I'm sold, right? If they start telling me I'm the best lawyer, the best accountant, the best this, and I did this and I did that, I'm like, you know, calm down. You know, let me get some referrals over here, right? Maybe overdoing it a little bit. Maybe, right? Maybe yeah, maybe no. So we have a bias. People have a bias. Some people have a bias to boast about themselves, to overdo things, you know, talk about their great accomplishments and all the wonderful character traits that they have. I would say that most people have a negative bias. They look down on themselves and they beat themselves up. And it's very hard for a person to give themselves grace and give themselves credit for all the good things that they do, all the good qualities that they have, because it's not what we focus on. We focus on, oh, I messed up here. I'm a failure at this. I'm a failure at that. So
all that negative stuff was because of our parents.
right? Maybe I don't know.
Hey, Jamie, what do you think about that?
Yeah. It's not our fault, it's our parents' fault, right?
No, but those are the things that you were taught when you were children by the messages you get from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your
And that
teachers
stays
and
with
your
you
parents.
as you get older. Sometimes people, like I never sang because when I was 10, I was told to mouth the words. So I
Right.
never sang. And now I joined a choir
Then
and
you're
I'm
like, oh, I
finding
can
my
do it,
voice.
right? No.
That I do have a voice. It's not very good, but
So I think that's a challenge to give ourselves credit, to recognize our strengths and define ourselves in a positive way. I think is an ongoing challenge that a lot of people deal with. And if we switch that around, right, what are the benefits of doing so? Right, thinking about ourselves in a different light, we'll find you'll come back next week and give us a report that was it helpful or not. Okay, any questions?
Very powerful, different way of thinking.
Yeah, I like it.
It opened up my eyes.
Yeah.
I think at some point in life, some of us reach the point where maybe because we've been impacted by certain events. So in my case, maybe there were medical events that changes your perspective. And so that, I mean, for me, my emphasis always on positive. And when there are things that I can't do or I'm not good at, I've reached the point where I just accept it. So I'm never going to be a good landscaper. I leave to that person who's got that piece of the puzzle to work on that. I'm not going to be a good surgeon. I'm not going to attempt it, and I'm going to leave it to the people that do what they do. I have my role, and I accept. I'm at the point where I accept that I feel like I'm pretty good at what I do, and I'm going to leave other things to the people that are good at what they do.
Right.
So I'm at the point of acceptance.
All right, that's beautiful. There's there's 5 levels of grief, right? Just in the opposite. Right? Acceptance is the last level, but this isn't grief, obviously. This is happiness and joy. That's a very good. That's a blessing to be in such a place, right? Yeah.
Cause I find that too, like at work, like there's this one Hindu lady and she's like really, really bright. And I look at her, I'm like, God, how come you're like so bright? And I don't even know what you're talking about. Right. Like,
Way above
oh,
me.
different. I don't even know what
She's
you're
up
talking
here.
about.
It's very simple. So when we're done with this course, am I going to know
Everything.
why Hashem has given me extra chances at life? Am I gonna know the reason? for that?
The reason that there's an extra fee for that
Okay,
information.
I'll pay it. I don't know, I don't know what I'm here supposed to be doing.
Nobody
This
knows.
extra time,
so
well,
no-
I need to know.
You need to. Then what would happen is you do
And
the next three lists on the next three tasks on your checklist, and you'd be done, right? So there are some ideas, right? We believe very strongly that Hashem puts us in the right place and gives us the opportunities to do what we're supposed to do here in this world. It's up to us to take those opportunities and to do them. You can bring the cow to the water. You can't make it drink. So Hashem gives us the chances. Hashem has ideas for us, and Hashem orchestrates our lives. It puts us. We believe that the place where we're at, if we're in a certain place, the fact that we're all here in Arlington Heights or Palatine, right? We live here not because, well, we chose, but Hashem guided us here. Now, what we do in the place where we live, in the community that we're in, that's up to us. But where we are in life, physically, Hashem puts us there. And now Hashem's putting us there because our soul is connected to this place. And I know we went a little overtime, but I'll share two cool stories that which bring out this point. I was traveling in South Africa a bunch of years ago for my brother's wedding. Chaim, some of you know Chaim, or almost everyone.
a year ago, you said?
No, a bunch of years ago.
A bunch
I
of
think it was 11 years ago, something like that. This was like the only family trip we ever took as a whole family, where everybody went, and it wasn't even the whole family. My sister was expecting and she couldn't come, but almost everyone. So we were in Johannesburg for the wedding, and then we went to Cape Town. And some people went to Cape Town just for a day. I think my brother-in-law went right back to the States, but almost everyone was there, and we were there for like 4 or 5 days. And I was like, never happened before in our family that we all did that. And when we were there, we went to some attraction, the southern or northernmost parts, the penguins and whatnot. And on the way back, we stopped at some place, a rest stop, for a few minutes. And then there's a kosher restaurant, we went out to eat at. And we're in the kosher restaurant, and my father puts his hand in his pocket. And while we were driving, my father told me that the Baal Shem Tov said that there's a tradition wherever a person goes, they're going to end up visiting that place again. And I was like, what are the chances I'm ever going to come back here? Right? This is a once in a lifetime thing. And we get to this kosher restaurant, and everyone's eating. My father puts his hand in his pocket to pay with the real, whatever the currency is, and the cash is gone. Thankfully, they took credit card, right? But he had local currency, and it was gone. So he didn't say anything. Everyone ate the meal. Everyone went back. We had like an apartment we were staying in. Then he tells me, "Achazava, come with me. We need to drive somewhere. I don't want to go myself." Okay, fine. We start driving, and he tells me that I lost the cash that was in my pocket. And the only place I can think of is when we got out at that rest stop, 20, 30 minutes away, maybe that's the only place, maybe it fell out of my pocket over there. And we went back, and in this parking lot, the money was still there. It was exactly there.
Wow.
And I remember my father telling me that I said that, the Baal Shem Tov said, you're going to come back, any place you visit, you're going to go back to. My father was like, I belittled that, and look what happened. I had to come back there. So there's this idea that the place where we go to visit, Hashem directs us in that location. It's meant to be. But it's up to us to grab the opportunity and do the right thing. So can anybody tell you that this is exactly why you're here? Why Hashem gave you another 30 years to be here in this world? I don't know if anyone can have that authority and say, this is exactly why you're here. But Hashem's going to present that opportunity to you. And when something comes your way, it means that it's meant to be. There's I can keep going, but I think we'll stop here.
My stepmother, who wasn't Jewish, always said your life is right in front of your face. So years after that, I had a premature baby, and she was in the NICU, and the doctor standing at the foot of my bed, name was Mangerton. That's the first Mangerton I ever met. Was Irv's cousin. And when I married Irv, my stepmother was not a good stepmother. when I thought, well, because of her, I could be a good stepmother. Because I had her to
Right.
not be.
You learned what not to
Your
do.
life is always, I mean, that's the one thing I learned from her.
Yeah.
You don't always know it, but it's there.
Like what I learned from my parents, what they do with me, I changed the way I parented my child.
Of course. Yeah.
I always thought
Not that
that,
they were bad people, they just did things different.
I thought what happens is normally you get married. You're like, oh, now I'm so wise. I know everything and I'm going to do things differently. And then you have children. Like, I'm not going to be like my parents. Then you do everything exactly like your parents.
When your father came out of your mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how did that happen, right? I was never going to do that, you know.
Because it's just you.
You know,
One of the better compliments that you'll get in life that I've been lucky enough to experience, you're too young to, is when your kids tell you that they've kind of become you,
Mhm.
you know, based upon all of the things that they thought you were absolutely crazy for saying and doing.
I'm turning into you.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
And when
You
they've,
heard it already?
Yeah.
and when your kids say that to you, it's a vindication. Because you never know what you're doing is the right thing. It seems like the right
Right.
thing at the time you're doing it.
Mm.
History lets you know if it was the right thing.
right.
But it's not always positive when they say that.
I'm not, no,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Please,
I have
yeah.
to leave.
we're
Thank you.
ones
See you
where
next
they-
Good
week.
night, Sherry. We'll see you next week.
They were saying it in a positive way, not in a negative way. You know, and it could be as simple as that when I used to say over and over and over again, turn off the lights when you leave the room. Turn off the lights.
I mean, I still.
Can't you eat a meal without spilling?
And then when they've said to me, you know, they were telling it to their kids, and they said, Dad, I thought you were so cheap and crazy. Why did you care that we left the light on? And then, now that's not a big deal, but it is, it's a vindication, if you will, of, you know, you weren't
They heard you.
crazy and they heard you. Cause we often don't
They
realize
heard you
that
or
they-
respect you.
that they heard us.
Mhm.
And hopefully, at the end of the day, they pick up parts of you to emulate the best parts of you. And then incorporate that into their lives and as their parents, and one day that they become grandparents and pick all of the good things that they've observed you do, that you're kind of not self-aware of, because again, you're not focusing on that. So